No, this is just,
Where
yeah,
all the,
executive, not till after the interviews.
where all the piece of paper that take notes?
Oh, well, but that's not that yet.
It's in the section.
Total sugar,
I'll talk you
yeah,
through it.
dark chocolate especially.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. I'll get that. Take it.
Ready? Good. Okay. All right.
Recording in progress.
On Thursday, October 23rd, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order.
Oh, the town meeting to order?
Would you like to start with the, well,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we want to welcome a new cab member from Linfield, Charles Ragusa. So just introduce yourself, please. Yeah.
I go by Charlie Ragusa, unless I'm signing something. Linfield makes a difference. I've been in Linfield for 30 years.
So you have the commissioner on this side, the cab member on this side.
Okay.
And what inspired you to take this role?
Well, I've been involved with different things in Linfield with the town. And they first came to me and asked if I wanted to be on the board for building development, which then told me was filled. And I spelled, we have a perfect spot view. And that's good. And I said, I don't know anything about it. I didn't think of it. This will give Paul a call and you'll get information. But Paul, I think he might have been out of the office and I ended up speaking to Erica. And she sent me some information and the people from Linfield asked if I'll do it. I said, I'll do anything you want me to do. And that's why I'm here. I know nothing about electricity other than paying my bill to save that few dollars in the beginning. And I'll do anything that needs to be done.
Thanks.
I don't know if anyone, I'm retired. But I was the president of a mutual fund and financial services organization. And I was a member of many boards with that because our company held 3 different organizations and I was a board member of each of those as well.
we're very happy to have you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing your expertise to the board. And I think you'll find we're a very collaborative bunch and we absolutely welcome your feedback.
Excellent.
Great. Okay, so we're going to do a few committee updates. I'll go with Ray first.
So I'm involved in several things in the town of Reading. One of the ones is ReCal, which is the senior center, new building for the senior center. And they've been they're going to be an all electric building. And the question is, can they afford solar panels to go on top of it? And the question was, what would be the rebate? And I think the person who is doing the renewable energy portion of that for the architect, while he had touched base with Megan early on in the process, made an assumption about what the compensation might be. And so I got in touch through Pam and through Karen Herrick and a number of people that I should meet up with the group there and kind of close the loop. And so I talked with Megan and we encouraged the two to get together. But essentially what the understanding or misunderstanding is what is the compensation? And I think the strict answer is, well, I don't know what your compensation is because we don't figure compensation until you apply. You're not going to apply for several years. So rules could change. So I don't know. And that I don't know turned into zero. And there will be compensation, even if we don't quite know the answer. And the correct answer, I think, is assume that you would get what we are offering now. That should be the right answer. And because we're not offering no compensation, there'll be compensation. There's value all the way around to do this. If the town of Reading puts an electric building and doesn't put on solar, then they're paying the electric rate. And then RMLD is then on the hook for providing more power because they'll need to buy that from the grid. And that'll lead to our increase in demand, which will lead to more charges. If you put solar panels on, then that reduces the town's bill, reduces the exposure that RMLD has in terms of providing power. And is a benefit back to the community because they're offsetting substantially their power and is a greener building. So the right answer is to put solar panels on the building and whatever compensation is needed to get past break even. That should be where we're targeting our mitigation, whatever that might be at the time. So hopefully that loop's getting closed and that will be the decision that the planning board makes. Haven't talked with Megan again as to whether she's closed the loop, but I think that's the direction it's heading. Any questions about that or no? Okay, good. I'm also on the charter review, Reading's town charter review committee. And we've presented the changes to the town charter to the select board. The select board had some suggestions. We followed up with those. And we are now preparing for the presentation of the changes to the town charter to the town meeting. And so we've all been assigned sections to present, and I'll be presenting some of the sections of changes to the town charter. No real change, none of the edits that were made affected the definition of Reading Light Board member or commissioner and the responsibilities. There were other sections that had some comments, so none of that changed. But that will that's moving forward, and town meeting is the next stop.
Excellent.
So I
Thank
have
you.
for that.
Okay.
Great.
Any other, I know from a selection committee standpoint, we're here at the next step, so we can
We're done.
hold on that.
We're done. We did our job.
The subcommittee for the candidate screening has completed their work and made their recommendations. So thank you to the subcommittee members for all of your time and effort, and to the RMLD team who participated in that process. I know there was a ton of work that went into it. We had a lot of feedback from RMLD employees, from a lot of time commitment from folks. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I want to thank the RMLD employees for giving us feedback. We had Patty as a part of our review committee, gave a lot of great feedback, and so yeah, I do want to thank the RMLD team and staff for their feedback. It was very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, any other committee updates? Can we do anything on the contract?
I mean, if you want a quick update on the contract committee. So we shared a contract proposal that we voted on last night. Last night to recommend to the board. They will be able to discuss it later on in executive session. Just a reminder that the contract committee is me as the chair, and then Dave and Vivek. And so, a deep thank you to the committee who put in a lot of long hours. I know Vivek was also on the candidate committee, and so he was doing double duty. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you to that group as well for all of your time and effort on that. So very important. Yeah.
Is this contract to the line crews, or what contract are we?
Sorry for the general manager.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
for the general manager.
Good clarification.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
everybody
good
may know
question.
that. So thank you for that.
No, this is for the selection.
Right, I didn't know that a couple of contracts were up,
Yes.
so I.
No, very,
Landscaping contract.
very good clarification. Thank you.
We're gonna cut the shrubbery twice a month.
Well, I mean, it is fall. A lot of
Yes.
There's a lot of cleanup. Okay, excellent. So we have about 20 minutes until we're going to start our interview process, but we're going to use that time to talk through the process for how this evening is going to go, as well as the plan for tomorrow. And then we will have two candidates who are here in person who will be interviewed. So I will start just by saying, in general, the Board of Commissioners is not going to take public comment at this meeting. If you are listening in and you would like to provide feedback or comments relative to the finalists after their interviews, you absolutely can do so via email. You can send that correspondence to rmldboc@rmld.com. And if you submit that before 11 a.m. tomorrow, then we will be able to receive that and include that before we have our kind of planned final deliberations on the selected candidate. But in terms of folks who are in the room on the Board of Commissioners and on the cab. Our, oh, wait a second. Sorry. I skipped a couple of things that we have to do before that. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Yeah, so first approval of meeting minutes. So we have a couple.
Yeah, so when we get a motion. Sorry, can you just read the motion?
Yes, move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board approve the following 2025 open session meeting minutes as presented on the recommendation of the interim general manager and the board secretary, August 22nd.
I second it. Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, so that, all right, so I think we can. But it's joint, right, with you guys, so that was joint, yeah.
You,
So, yeah, I'll wait to see if there's any discussion from your side.
before you vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody want to read the?
I can read it. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve the following 2025 open session meeting minutes as presented on the recommendation of the interim general manager and the board secretary, August 22 and August 27th.
Second.
Any discussion about the meeting minutes? Okay. So
There was just one small correction, which was pointed out to Erica, and I think, yeah.
And those are included in the ones that you guys have. Do you want me to read it for the?
No, it's okay. So we can vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vivek's only aye. You can abstain if you want, but
I read it, but I didn't know what I was. Was correct.
okay.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right there. GM search committee has some notes to
So
approve.
those we're actually gonna have to table for the next meeting.
Oh, they're tabled. Okay, all right. Okay, so we have a procurement request to do. This is IFB 2025-22, a steam boiler replacement. Who is going to be speaking from RMLD on this request?
I am Pam.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you? How is everybody?
I Paul.
Really hard to hear you. Hang on, we'll try to work on the audio for a second.
Try again, Paul?
I have it turned up all the way on.
What about now, Paul?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can, it's a little difficult, but if you can just speak up as loud as possible.
Sure,
Into
absolutely.
the phone, that would be great.
Okay, so I'm going to report on an invitation for a bid to replace a steam boiler. The project overview, we're replacing an existing steam boiler at Station 1 due to a cracked section in the boiler. It is irreparable. The scope of the project involves removing the current unit and installing a new boiler system. There is a deadline associated with this, and that would be prior to winter bad weather to ensure operational heating inside the building. The importance of this project is the basement houses a continuously operating sump pump. If the boiler wasn't working properly, things could freeze, causing the pump and a discharge pipe failure, which would risk the basement to get flooded. Building also functions as a paper storage facility for RMLD, which requires stable humidity levels maintained by this heating system to prevent moisture damage. The procurement details are: bid was issued to 15 companies, 6 responded. Contract was awarded to Ambient Temperature Corporation, also known as ATCO. the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. The estimated cost is $49,600. ATCO's bid came in at $43,900 or $5,700 under budget. That's all I have to report.
Thanks, Paul. Any questions or discussion?
I'm just curious what the fuel source is.
Gas boiler.
Gas boiler? I mean, like convert to electricity at RMLD, right? Just ask.
David, the notes that I have, don't talk about that.
Okay. All right. Electrification.
Any other discussion?
I had the same question, but
I guess that's been looked at.
Is Patty Molino in the room? Is Patty
Sorry,
there?
can you say that again?
I say, is Patty there? That
No.
works with Chris Zanaboni? No?
No.
No, she might know. Okay, sorry.
It's fueled by gas. It's, yeah, I was gonna say, it's a boiler. It's either oil fired or gas fired boiler. It's not an electric fired boiler at that scale. It's not economical, so. I was assuming it was one or the other.
Sure.
Not
Just,
a lot
I'm
of
just confirming, why wouldn't it be heat pumps, but. All right, never mind.
If you're moving water is the heating agent, that's probably why it's not heat pumps.
Any other questions, comments? Ready for the vote? Oh, sorry, we didn't, somebody read the motion?
Second.
No one read it. No one read it. Okay, who read the motion?
I'll do it.
Who wants to read it?
Move that bid 2025-24 for the RMLD steam boiler replacement be awarded to ATCO Inc. for $43,900 pursuant to Master General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 35M, as the lowest responsible and eligible bidder on the recommendation of the interim general manager.
Second.
We'll just modify that it was bid 2025-22. It's correct. It's
Oh, dash,
the 24, so I'm just,
no, I said 24, sorry.
it's fine.
One of those 20s.
All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
May I make a quick comment? There is an Eastern Gateway meeting coming up. And I did not know if anybody from RMLD is attending.
I am planning to attend.
Planning to attend.
Okay, but you're not planning to attend as RMLD. You're board members, but you're in there as citizens.
I'm as there as a
Right.
interested citizen.
Right.
I didn't know if anybody from RMLD, I could say that, RMLD directly is going to be attending.
Not that I believe as of now.
Okay.
And then if 3 of you do want to attend, we will have to probably post it as a meeting just to be safe.
Post it as a meeting just to be safe, please. Thank you.
when
That,
is it?
27th?
yeah, the week of Halloween, that Monday.
I just want to caution anybody that, we don't speak for RMLD.
Yeah.
We're there, we can make comments about what we want to
Right, you
do.
just have to say, you could say you're on the board, but you're speaking
Yeah.
as a citizen, not as a,
Yeah, correct.
not representing the board.
Correct. And that gateway project does not include the RMLD property. It's everything on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it wouldn't affect this site.
Next agenda item is E&E information request update. Vivek.
Yeah, okay, no, so thank you. I know Wynn's on the line, right? So hi, Wynn. We, at the last meeting, we discussed some work that RMLD has been doing with E&E, and some of us felt we needed to get some more detail. And the action was for Dave and me to put some information together, and put together an information request. We did that. We shared that with Paul, and that information request has been sent to E&E. E&E has acknowledged it, and they're planning to have a meeting with us on November 7th at RMLD. I think it's being set up, or it's been set up. And David, you're welcome to join us for that meeting. So it's going to be
Well,
Pam.
I'm sorry, Pat, go ahead.
it's going to be a meeting where I think, Win, do you want to add any comments here?
It looks like he's
Yeah, you're
muted.
muted. I
It's
think.
on mute. I think the intent was it was not going to be a full cab BOC meeting. It's for the chairs.
Yeah, he reached out to the chairs and I said, I wanted to make sure Dave was on the meeting, so.
Couple quick thoughts on it. Why wouldn't we just have this be at one of our meetings in the next month or two? Why would it be a private meeting with 2 board members?
It's just, the idea is that there may be information that's not public information.
So then it could be executive session.
It can be an executive session, yes. So,
I mean, any, to the extent it's involves the competitively sensitive under the definitions, then you'd move to executive. Right? So that's how you do things as a public board. You either do an open session or you do a regular session.
yeah, no, and so the idea was that we can do it that way. So the question is, Pam, how would you, from your perspective?
I think if the request is that the full board is interested in the topic, then we can have an executive session. It would be a combined CAB and BOC executive session.
Fine with me. I think, what my request was to have this information available to us before we have the budget discussion, okay? Because I said we need to have this information before we discuss it as a budget item.
So I think that means we'd have to change the date. Rmld Fridays, technically not. I mean, would we be able to do a meeting on Fridays here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
But we'll have to poll for availability from the rest of the board in the CAB. So we'll get back to everybody with a poll on the schedule for that.
Okay.
so, to be clear, you do not want to keep the November 7th, 1 p.m. meeting anymore. You would rather change that to either be an executive on that day or an additional separate executive another day.
I don't think we need to do 2 meetings, so it would either be canceled and an executive would be scheduled for a different date, or we use that date and time for an executive. Yeah.
Can everyone here, do they know off the top of their heads they can do that?
Could we do a quick poll to see who could make it Zoom executive?
Scheduling's
Zoom's fine, yeah,
That we could maybe possibly keep the same time, just
Yeah.
expand it to be Zoom.
November
November
7th.
7th at 1 p.m.
Just, I won't be there personally, but I didn't know if anybody, that may
Come on. So,
oh,
Is Zoom an option or not?
I would prefer not to.
Okay, sounds like no then,
No,
Um,
on what?
on the.
Being
7th
available on
date.
1 o'clock on the 7th.
Reschedule. So we will need to look for a date and time that works for as many as possible prior to the 13th. What's our budget meeting?
It's
Or-
the 12th, so
It's
the
the 12th.
10th. We did a poll for the 10th because you reserved that for your contract negotiations. It looked like most of you could do the 10th, which is Monday. I do not know if Ben can do the 10th. Ben, I know you're on the call. If you're comfortable answering, if not, we can circle back.
Because that is also the day before Veterans Day. If anybody's going out of town, that would come.
I can do it.
I'd prefer, I have a conflict that night.
Optional, if just a suggestion, you have the meeting on the 7th at 1 with just whoever can attend. If it's not a board meeting, it's not a board meeting, and then if you want to do an additional, then you can do that, but if you want it before the budget, I think that might be the only date that works. Well, based on the polls we already have.
Yeah, it works. So first of all, I do think it should be a meeting. We talked about it at a public meeting. It should be a board meeting. If it's appropriate under executive, then we move to executive, but that this is information that the board, I just think we should do meetings as a proper board, not a couple of members.
just
Yeah.
to counter, I think,
Yeah.
let's kick it off with Vivek. Maybe you'll even help develop a framework of what the questions you can ask, and then Finn can.
Yeah, no, the questions have been asked. I mean, we've asked the questions.
Okay.
And so I think we've compiled a list of information that we wanted, because what in the past, we were given information about various programs. What we wanted was everything buttoned out and presented in a certain way. Okay, So that request has been made of ENE. And I'm okay, I have a conflict on the 10th. I mean, I've tried to be very flexible on this. I had a lot of flexibility going into this. They suggested 4, 5, 6, 7. I said yes. 10, I'm saying no. Okay. So I'd like to find another
Are
one.
there fourth, fifth, sixth options any of those days?
I'm out that whole week.
Okay.
So.
Can you join
Dave?
by Zoom? I mean, I'll make myself available. You know,
Okay.
Um,
if we can.
If there's a Zoom, if, you know,
Six.
I'll look and see if I can join you.
sixth
on
is
Zoom.
good. Fifth has, only limited conflicts. I could probably make a range of options there. Fourth is the election day.
What about the 6th?
I could do the sixth,
Are we talking evening or?
Yeah,
middle of the day?
6th. Yeah,
either
Six,
for me.
fine with me.
let's do the 6th. Let's check with,
Vin, could you do the 6th?
Works for me.
Okay,
thank you, Win.
Okay, so, thank you so much. Okay. All right, so we're gonna move into the general manager interview portion of the evening. So we have, again, big thanks to everybody who was part of this process, to get us up to this point. We have 2 candidates this evening. We did have a third candidate, who decided to remove themselves from the process due to personal reasons. So we totally respect that and appreciate their participation and certainly wish them the best of luck. Very excited about these 2 candidates. I think we have 2 highly qualified, and fantastic options. So I'm really excited, and I hope the rest of the board is really excited about talking to each of them this evening. So we have a couple of packets, or a packet in front of everybody with interview questions and notes sections. So we'll go through the questions or the topics in a moment. What we're going to do is give everybody the space to take notes on each of the questions that are asked, and provide a score between 1 and 4, no halves, for each of the questions. That will be a guide for us as we go into deliberation around, strengths and opportunities for each of the candidates. We will ask for that input from both the CAB and the Board of Commissioners. Once we have an opportunity to talk through all of that feedback, I will then ask the board members to give their first choice vote. The CAB will take their feedback, but we will not ask the CAB for a vote. Any questions on the process in terms of capturing feedback or taking scoring, or how we will vote likely tomorrow?
But, yeah, okay.
So
We're not voting.
yeah, most likely, yeah. We're gonna be doing two hours worth of interviews. Then we will need to move into an executive session for discussions on the contract that we would like to offer to the eventually selected candidate, and doing that plus then deliberation around the candidate themselves is probably too much for one evening. So we're gonna also then, that also gives us an opportunity to ask the public or anybody else, anybody who has a say, that they can send in an email, and we can look at it before we deliberate tomorrow at noon.
So I just want my CAB colleagues to be clear. There'll be a question that Tim will ask on behalf of the CAB. Okay, and then you guys will score the information and you'll share with me. And then I will collect that information and I'll socialize with Pam.
Yes, you will represent that
I'll
at the meeting
represent
tomorrow.
Are we scoring in this book or?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Or whichever way you want to do it. But it's,
The
book
scores
makes it easier.
by different people or?
Yeah.
is it
Yes,
combined?
so there are 2 sections. The first section, just alphabetically, is for Mr. Small. So any of the notes around, you'll see this kind of gray section divider here with Small on the front. That'll be like the start of that section. And then there is also a gray divider with Yusevich on the front. That'll be Ms. Uchevic's section. So the way we're going to go through this is I'll do some opening remarks. That'll take 3 minutes. Then I will talk about a particular question category. We'll have each of the board members will have a category. So I will ask questions regarding leadership, decision-making, and crisis management for 10 minutes. Strategic vision and long-term planning. Mr. Talbot will ask questions about that for 8 minutes. Execution, resilience, and results. Mr. Swanson will ask questions about that for 8 minutes. Labor relations and organizational culture. Mr. Coulter will ask questions about that for 9 minutes. Stakeholder engagement and communication. Mr. Woods from the CAB will ask questions about that. Motivation and fit is Mr. Porter. Me gave you 4 minutes for that. I didn't realize we'd give you less than that, but we can certainly give you extra time if we have time for at the end. So you'll see on this, that's the first section, and you don't have to take notes there. Notes can go on the major pages. You'll see the next page has the score 1 through 4 for each of the sections. So please feel free to fill that out there. And the score guide, you can see there on the pages, but each score will get 1 through 4. 1 is does not meet expectations, 2 would be partially meets expectations, 3 is meets, and 4 is exceeds expectations. So please select one of the 4 for each of the question sections. I know that this has been sent out to the board to review in advance. So before we jump in, I just want to ask if there are any questions about the questions, any modifications to the questions. We do want to try to maintain consistency in questions between the 2 candidates. So if anybody has any edits, please let me know.
No.
Yeah, now.
The only one would be to get into a little bit about what the customer engagement strategy would be as that grows increasingly important. Might segue into that in a couple of these.
So agree, that's very important.
Yeah.
We do have a stakeholder engagement and communication section that Mr. Wood is planning to cover. Can you ensure that you include a specific question about ratepayer?
Yeah.
Communication?
Okay.
Be great. Is that,
That
cover the
says,
need?
I mean, the question is, who are the most critical stakeholders? But it doesn't really ask how are we going to at scale kind of engage more robustly with all of our our people who are.
Can you maybe just what would you like the
I guess
question to
it's
say, and then
yeah.
we can just make sure we
Sure. I guess it's just like, with our 30,000 customers, we're going to need to be more involved in interacting with them, understanding how to shape load, and with the smart meters and everything, how will they implement and execute on that? What do they see doing in this whole area of increasing customer interactions and customer engagement? Does that make sense? Bob's grimacing.
I think it's whatever you free form on the question.
Sure.
Just free form on the question again.
Yeah.
To the next candidate. I don't think we need to change the question, but I
Yeah.
just think we just need to repeat it
Sure.
for both candidates. I'm no objection to it because I think that's part of the.
Yeah. Just be flexible in the dialogue. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, no, I.
Once we're in the conversation, it could.
Sure.
Anything.
I agree.
Is that enough, Tim, to go on?
Mhm.
Okay. Any other feedback on the questions or changes? Okay. Great. Are there any questions on the process? Note, scoring, expectations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got 4 minutes and I've got more questions to ask than any other section.
Why we did
So-
4 minutes in the last?
Yeah.
I think we didn't change the time and last minute added some to yours, right? So that might have been an error.
Why don't we,
Well-
why don't we do this? Let's 8 minutes for my section. I don't know why I got 10. 8 minutes for Bob's section and 8 minutes for your section, Ray.
Right.
Okay, then everybody's even,
Yeah, I'm just,
and I'll be super close, super
Yes.
short with my opening remarks.
because I'm looking at the questions and some are quite similar, so I didn't know if paraphrasing them to get to the point is
In your section, you
my
mean?
section, it's whether it really needs to be 6 distinct questions. But we'll work through it and try to keep it consistent between the candidates.
And some questions like a yes, no answer, right? Yeah.
Well, the first two can be combined. It's asked together for a single response. And the last one is availability. That's pretty direct. And then the last one is a follow-up question. So I kind of see it's really more 3 questions with a confirmation. And so I'm just saying, I'm just saying this, I might not ask each question individually.
Sure.
One possible add. The first portion of your job, why do you want this job, right? That's probably either that should be the summary, it should be the intro, or it should be the conclusion. Maybe take that one back to Pam. But that's always that's why do you think you're the right fit for this job? That's a great,
Well, I don't have the problem with the question, but then the next one is kind of the same thing, except some added words.
I think, but
So
what I'm
I would
suggesting is
combine the two.
take that out of your question and either give it to Pam as an ending, or you.
Well, I am the ending. I mean, I
Yeah,
can just
that-
make it the
that-
last
that-
one I ask.
Make that the last one you ask, right?
Okay.
Why do you want the job? Right, tell me why you're the best fit to have this job, and then maybe move that down, and then that's somewhat of an untimed. You get a couple minutes to ramble if we go, with respect to
Okay.
time. With the respect to time, we want to go in, but I think 10 minutes in the beginning, I think you'll be done before 10 minutes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so we will, we'll do our best to move through it quickly. Any other questions or comments? I think we can go ahead and bring in the first candidate.
After this, do you want us here, Tyler, or which?
I don't think so. I think we can let them go, both of them go.
Our candidates are gonna be told it's not a decision tonight, right?
Yes, that's a great point. I will tell them that.
Just so they're not anxious for a phone call, but
Yes.
they get sent home. Okay. Yeah. Beat it.
I was gonna do brass horn section, but if,
They're in the closet. Yep, tapped away. Randy, you keep a time?
Pam has the,
Oh, you have the time?
put a stopwatch on the
On your iPad.
Oh, okay. What happens when it, goes off? Is it making a loud noise or is it just?
I
flashing?
just stopwatch, I didn't do a timer. Do you want me to do a timer?
No, that's fine. I'll just do a stopwatch. You can both keep an eye on it, maybe. I lapsed in my duties of monitoring the time, please. It's snacking. Welcome.
love you.
Thanks for joining us. So welcome. Thanks for your interest in this role. Before we jump into specific questions, I just want to make you aware of kind of the process and the timing of how this is going to go. So we'll have about 50 minutes for questions. We'll go through each of the board members as well as one CAB member. We'll have a particular topic area. We'll probably spend about 8 minutes for each of those topics, multiple questions within the same topic. Kind of rotate there. And it's most likely that we will not have a decision in terms of the candidate to nominate tonight. The plan is that we will meet again as a board tomorrow at noon and have that conversation. Okay, so you don't have to stick around for hours. Any questions before we jump in?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for being here again. So we wanted to start by asking you to just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe for about 2 minutes or so, about your background, what you know about our type of business, and your public or private power utility experience at a high level.
Well, first, thank you for having me here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity. I've been in the electric utility industry for just over 24 years. I have a bachelor's of science and a master's of science in electrical engineering, both of them, and also with a concentration in power. I started off my career at National Grid as an operations engineer, where I did a little bit of everything, new customer services, system improvement jobs, switch and tagging, cable testing. We just kind of did everything on the distribution side. I did that for 6 or 7 years, and an opportunity came up, and I moved over to the project management side of the house, where I was a distribution line project manager. So any project that was over $1 million in the capital spend, got a project manager. I worked on that for about 6 years. During that time frame, there was a substation group and a transmission line group that did project management as well, and they had a process that they called it a playbook of how they manage projects. And the business decided to try to update that, include distribution line into that process. So I spent 2 years on a special assignment with 5 other people, going around reviewing that process, making changes to it, incorporating distribution line side to it, then creating all the training and the procedures, and then we implemented it into the business. I did that, and when that was done, they had combined project management where anybody could manage any of the types of projects. So at that point, I was managing transmission line projects, substation projects, distribution projects. I was given at the time the Greater Boston Study, which is the second largest group of projects in the National Grid. It was over, so I think it started off at about 500 million. It got whittled down to about 250 million. But I did that for a couple of years, and then an opportunity came up at the town of Danvers in the electric division, where I could move over and go back to getting my engineering roots. I had recently at that time completed my master's degree in engineering, and I kind of got that bug again, and went over to Danvers to be a system engineer, where we did a little bit of everything, all the stuff that I did when I was an operations engineer, but we also did substation projects, maintenance, all that stuff. So I've been there for 11 years, and for the last 4 years, I got promoted to the engineering operations manager, where I oversee a group of approximately 30 people, between engineering, line operations, and technical services metering. It's kind of it.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm gonna ask a few questions around kind of leadership and decision-making, crisis management. So if you can start by just describing a little bit of your leadership and management style, and specifically, how do you handle disagreements with your team or make difficult decisions?
Okay, my management communication style is open and transparent. I'm very direct with my communications, and that's how I communicate with people. As far as like conflicts in between team members or other, I actually think that the best thing that come out is I encourage some conflict as long as it's professional. I think that's the best way to get to a good solution for a problem. People are going to have different opinions of how to do things, and I think that fosters a good possible solution. So I try to encourage that in my team when we talk about topics or designs or how we're going to handle a situation. One example was we had some newer engineers starting, and it was suggested by one of my engineers that we create kind of a set of switching language, the common set of terms and how we write switching orders. And at first I was kind of a little bit against it, because my belief was I didn't want to hand somebody something where they're just copying when they're writing switching. I want the person to understand what they're doing. It's very important when you move a load around or you isolate something for crews to work on. So I was a little hesitant at that, but we kind of continued that discussion. And after a while, I said, we came to a compromise where we limited it to phrases in specific terms, specific pieces of equipment, or how you do a certain thing, make sure that we do it all the time, but it wasn't necessarily something you could use to go right in order. And that helped out our newer engineers greatly, and they also provided consistency across all of the control authorities when they wrote those orders. I also have an open door policy. I'm always available for my team to come in and talk and discuss anything. Very open and willing to have that talk. I enjoy having conversations with my team about just about anything that has to do with the job.
Thank you. Can you share an example of a challenging situation that you faced professionally? And what was your approach to that and the outcome of the situation?
This last summer, I think if everybody remembers, in the end of June, it got really hot. We had that 100-degree day. In Danvers, we were already operating on a contingency on our 23 kV system. So during the middle of the day, the loads were creeping up on some of our other circuits. So we moved some load around, and shortly after we did that, we lost another 23 kV circuit where a cable failed and actually failed into another 5 kV circuit. It was with the loads really high. It was during the middle of the day. There was only so many places we could put the load. It was very challenging. So my engineering group at Control Authorities got right on to looking at how we could possibly pick up the customers. We had about a third of the town out during the heat. At the same time, this year is the first year we had a 5 megawatt battery on a 23 kV system, and they had some issues the night before charging. So they were actually charging in the middle of the day to add to the load problems. So that was different. So once that started, we got the team going on looking at possible ways to pick up the customers as quickly as possible and put the load where we weren't going to be overloading other circuits. They noticed that the battery was charging. They immediately reached out to them and had them stop charging. That was a semi-difficult decision because we knew it was going to be a peak that later that day that we wanted to hit, and there was financial incentives for both the battery operator and Danvers Electric. So that was the thing. And then once we got the crews in the manhole, we found that one circuit actually went damaged another circuit, and the material that was down there was older, been there for a while, was non-standard construction. We started, so I got the lineup starting to look at our underground stock. We quickly determined that we didn't have the stock to make the repairs, so I reached out to our line contractor and got that process rolling for them to look at if they had the stock and if they were able to come and help us, which they were. In the meantime, to add to it, Danvers also has a new town manager that started about a month or two previously, and this was the kind of the first foray into having a big, large outage. So me and my team made sure we kept town hall apprised of the restoration efforts, and as we picked up customers, made sure that they knew the customer counts. We made sure our outage map on the website was up to date, so customers could come and see as we were restoring what was still out. And then I also was working closely with the business division. They typically don't get involved in outage. They take calls during the day, but they don't get too much involved in putting stuff into OMS or handling that large or extended tank unless it's an actual storm. So this was a kind of not a storm, so they weren't there for that. But we do actually biannual training with our business division to keep them up to date on how to input calls into our OMS, and they did that very well. And they were able to also tell customers and give them updates. One of the outcomes of keeping town hall up to date was that 5 kV circuit that was in that hole that got damaged had no backup from that point to where the customers were, and approximately 80 customers were going to be out for the duration of the repairs, which ended up being about 19 hours. But keeping town hall up to date, they were able to reach out to the Red Cross. They got the Red Cross involved, and they were able to assist the people down there. They would have actually was a Danvers Housing Authority down there. So the customers all got restored very quickly, with the exception of the people that were out for the repairs. We got them all back on within 2 to 3 hours. Everybody, it went very smoothly and went very well.
So how would you apply what you learned from that particular situation to kind of leading RMLD through a potential future event similar?
So it relates as in I had a few different departments that were involved. I had along with external consultants, contractors, trying to keep the teams working together towards a common goal. So we're able to, with the business division, line ops, engineering, tech services, had a big play with our substation group, with the switching. Just getting everybody in different departments to work together towards a common goal and have a successful.
Are there any systems or strategies that you would prioritize making sure we're available to ensure continuity and resilience in the system?
Yes. So the continuity, this is, sorry, can you repeat that again?
Oh, sure. What kind of systems or strategies would you want to ensure are in place to help ensure continuity or resilience in that situation?
So one of the things I mentioned was training, cross-training in our business division, the call takers, to take the calls when information is important and how to input that into our OMS system so that those calls come over to the engineering side of things, so they helps them. With the OMS system, it predicts where the outages are and what the causes are. It helps narrow down some of that. So working through that was some stuff that we've done. We do that biannually so that it's kept up to date. With the switching and tagging, just like I said, even like what I just mentioned with keeping the common language up to date. So it was allowed the engineers to write the orders consistently. If they divvied them up, and a couple engineers were writing some orders and others were writing others. Over time, we've added all the loading information and percent loads of downstream of each device on our one lines. So that's there so that during any situation, they can quickly see what they're going to possibly pick up on another circuit to make sure they don't overload anything else. We have our monthly load reads that we keep in the database. We have our SCADA system that goes in the database, and everybody's up to date on how to make those reports and to keep the continuity going, because this is not null.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We move to Talbot, I think. Yes.
Jason, welcome. Thanks for flying, and it's good to see you here. So there's 8 minutes here, and we want to just get through the questions of like the strategic vision and long-term planning and the challenges that we're going to face. And what do you see as RMLD's most pressing strategic challenges over the next 5 to 10 years? And how would you prioritize addressing them? Okay, one of the main things I think that's going to be our priority over the next 5 to 10 years is electrification and load growth. I know we've been talking about it for a while, but it is gonna start to take off. I think that and to be ahead of it and have the stuff in place, because some of the possible solutions to that, like system upgrades or upgrading substations, are long-term, lengthy projects that need to be done. So some of that you need to start now, between long lead times on materials and the design, but also looking at non-wires alternatives, trying to look at the demand response programs, getting those, see what works, what doesn't work, trying to make improvements on those, whether it's the time of use rates or other rates, trying to limit and move load around to other spots and encourage that behavior. There's a lot of different ways to try to get that. Also, it's going to probably ebb and flow. It might ramp up for a short period of time and then kind of plateau or even slightly drop, and then it's going to ramp up again. So to make sure that there's staff in there, maybe looking at consultants for those quick ramp ups. So to bring into it, support their in-house resources. And then when that kind of plateaus or drops off, you can go back to maintaining stuff with the current staff. So you're not augmenting staff and then left at potentially if it slows down, having too much staff. So yeah, you mentioned both the traditional engineering approach to solving the problem and also the softer kind of demand side response becoming increasingly important. Any more you want to elaborate on that, and also how do you balance short-term operational needs with those long-term strategic goals? So for like demand response, I know there's been a lot of discussion here on the board that I've noticed, and just kind of reviewing those programs, trying to figure out what works, try different things, have the team come up with different solutions, balancing with the short-term stuff. I think what could happen is the RMLD staff, I think, is very talented. Maybe they've been pulled in different directions recently, trying to get back to the core business side of things and do what electric utility does well, keeping the lights on, keeping the rates down, getting the system up to speed and improvement, and focus on those areas. And then as those start to take off, start bringing in some of these additional projects that might be a different way of handling things. Thank you. And when you were talking about that kind of crisis you had in Danvers, I just made me look up, by 2050, we're going to have 7 to 26 more days per year, according to the state website, of greater than 90-degree days. So there'll be a lot more days like that coming up. And so when how are you going to engage staff, but also stakeholders, including customers, in kind of being ready for that and being ready for the more crises that are sure to come, like what you faced in Danvers that day. Yeah. Trying to look at the various programs that are there today. I know the emails go out for the shave the peak. Working on those don't necessarily may or may not work. Maybe trying to find some incentives for customers, or whether it's time of use rates. Looking at, you could have the integrated resource department start looking at customers that are on the regular rate, and then comparing that to a time of use rate to see if they maybe might already be saving money if they switch to time of use rate, just about not even changing any habits. Yep. And then retargeting and reaching out to those customers to try to get them on the time of use rate to increase that, and then they might find additional incentive to change their behavior and even save more money.
Great. The last question in this category is to please share an example where you identified a strategic issue or opportunity and led the organization to address it. Such as in your, well, go ahead.
Repeat that again.
Just an example of where you may have identified a strategic issue or opportunity and led the organization to address it.
Okay. One of the things we had after coming out of COVID, the transformers lead times really grew, and the pricing rarely went up. And we're looking at our current inventory. So one of the strategic things we did was we had just started a new transformer load, overload transformer program, where we did more to a, necessarily it wasn't an overload program, it was more targeting transformers of a certain age with a certain loading in a certain area, or if it was underground, actually doing inspections and rating them. We were just getting that off the ground, where it was more than just looking at overloads when that happened. So what we did was we put that aside for the time being. We started keeping our transformers in for if we had failures or new customers that needed them. And then transformers that we would have normally had junked, if they were in good shape and of a certain age, we actually started keeping them. And then we looked at our ordering process, and we were getting quoted lead times back of 4 years. So we looked at what we thought, we decided we're going to run rates of transformers and how often we install them and use them, and went out to bid for 4 years worth of transformers. But we didn't just do our normal ordering. We ordered all sorts of sizes and voltages, and we took a look at our inventory, and we strategically picked certain sizes of certain voltages that could meet multiple needs, even if it wasn't ideal, and reduced our ordering to certain stock, and then put that out so that we could use, so we'd reduce how much we had to order, reduce the cost of that. Luckily for us, after we put that order out, it was roughly about $2 million worth of transformers. They actually, most of them came in within the first year to 2 years. So we received those. We had a little bit of clear on some storage, but we were able to get them. And then now it's working out for us because we've identified some more transformers that need to be replaced, as well as depending how the tariffs play out with the pricing, we might have actually, it seemed expensive at the time, might actually be a little bit less expensive than it could be if certain tariffs hit.
Thank you very much.
Great. Hi, Jason. Good to see you here. So this section is on execution, resilience, and results. And just like the others, there's just a few questions here. And so we'll dive in. You talked about the kind of that crisis day in Danvers. This first question says, can you share an example of a time when a project didn't go as planned? So you had, I think the spirit behind the question here is just if you had an objective, things were perhaps going along swimmingly, and then all of a sudden went off the rails. Describe that if you could, and then maybe talk a little bit about what you feel like you might have learned from that and how that impacts the way that you lead today.
Okay. I mentioned in my brief overview that I was on that social assignment for a couple of years working on the project management playbook for National Grid. And so we go through the process of bringing in all the different departments, reviewing the different processes, getting their feedback on what works, what doesn't, trying to make the process more efficient. We brought in the distribution line side, got them involved in that process, went through the whole thing. developed a common process that we could use across all 3 different businesses. And then, when I went to go implement it, I received a lot of pushback from the distribution line side of the business, saying that the project, that process would actually, cause more harm than good because it would make things go take longer, or, it was hard for them to follow. It didn't necessarily meet all the different types of projects, as distribution projects tend to be, they can be of various sizes, small, medium, large, where transmission and substation projects typically to be on the larger side. And so, part of that was, that it was kind of a big roadblock to kind of get that implemented. So I got, various department heads together, held different meetings, got support from senior leadership that wanted this to happen, multiple times, with them to try to get that through. And then, we were at finally, after a lot of meetings, a lot of discussion, we were able to make some tweaks and changes to the process that met most of their needs, and then we were able to get it implemented into the business. But some of the things I learned from that is, you know, you meet and you get the various stakeholders together and you try to get everybody to agree on something. But then as time goes, it was a 2-year process. Some of the people that were there in the beginning weren't there in the end. So just trying to keep everybody, and as people change out, trying to keep them involved in the project and keeping them up to date so that when it gets to the very end, you know, they're not hit with something they weren't expecting. And I try to carry that with everything I do. I just try to make sure I keep all the different stakeholders up to date as often as I possibly can.
That's great. Sounded like you had to adjust your expectations a little bit and sort of re-communicate with everybody and kind of get them back on board and everything. So yeah, that's terrific. So I'm going to read this question. A natural answer would have been what you experienced in Danvers that you just described over the summer. So I'm going to suggest perhaps a slightly different alternative in terms of the answer, but it just says, can you describe a time when you faced significant operational challenge or unexpected setback and you had to act quickly to deliver results? Is there a time perhaps when that operational challenge took place with people, with a team or something like that, that just didn't go quite how it was supposed to, and it turned into a challenge or unexpected setback?
Sure. Another situation that we had in Danvers was back in 2018. In October, we got actually hit with a bomb cyclone. I know it's kind of a newer term, but basically it formed right over Danvers and at like 2 a.m. And it wreaked havoc on our system. We have 6 23 kV circuits that feed the town, and 4 of them went down during this event, and all of them got damaged at the beginning of the feeder. Significant damage, trees down, snap poles. At the time I was an engineer, the on-call engineer was responding to it. I happened to wake up and see all the crazy alarms and on my phone, and I reached out to him and offered my help. And then I immediately came in and we started trying to piece together exactly what happened, because it's 3 a.m. and you're trying to look at your SCADA and your OMS and nothing's making sense because so much stuff was damaged and out. That it took a challenge. We were getting other people in. It ended up being a 3-day restoration event for Danvers, which is actually probably, I think it's their longest restoration event that anybody there is aware of. And we have some people that's been there for 30 years, called it like the worst storm they've had. It went fairly well because we were able to get everybody in. We started getting everybody teams and on storm roles. But in the past, they had never been hit that hard. So there wasn't like specific storm assignments. You know, you do this or you do that. We were slow to realize the extent of the damage to the system. So we didn't put out any calls for mutual aid until later that day. We actually tried to get our line contractor that we had on and they were also busy, but they were going to get us, but it was going to take a day to get there. The NEPA mutual aid network that's there today wasn't that, the ease of use of that system wasn't there in 2018. We did call our neighbors, Peabody and Middleton, and we were able to get some help from them. But in that process, we also weren't able to pick every circuit up and get every customer back on. And we were able to work with Puberty Light to get them to agree to we have a tie with them, and to get them to pick up some of our customers for the couple of days while we made restoration efforts. Over that, some of the things that didn't go well because we didn't have clear roles and responsibilities. There was a lot of overlap and duplication of sending people out to the same place multiple times, or not knowing exactly if this was done or not. I think overall it was a very successful restoration because it was only 3 days. But there was a lot of lessons learned that came out of that. So since then we've worked, and as when I became engineering operations manager, we have revisited our major emergency plan. We've working on completely overhauling it. It's in draft right now, but have a clear reporting structure, clear roles and responsibilities for what people are doing and what they're responsible for. And then we're going to be training on that, and we're going to do exercises where we mock exercise it so that everybody gets trained in thing. But that started in 2018. We're in 2025. It took a while to move forward because those things also don't happen very often. So with everything else going on, it kind of took a long time to get there, but that was definitely an event.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, last question here, and this one has to do with accountability and follow through from the people that you're leading. But how do you ensure accountability and follow through when leading complex initiatives?
I try to, with my team, to give them objectives and timelines to complete them in. We have regular meetings, whether it's with the entire staff or with individuals to discuss making sure that projects are completed on time and when they're needed. Some other examples are when I was at National Grid as a project manager, it's more of a matrix organization. So I was a project manager responsible for delivering projects that touched many different departments across National Grid, but none of those people reported to me. So trying to make sure that those projects moved, stayed on schedule, on budget, and in scope is challenging when you have to learn ways to help work with people to get them to do things when they have competing goals because they're in a different department. They maybe have competing projects. One of the ways I found that helped with the accountability was I really enjoy face-to-face conversation with people. So when I would talk to some of whether it was like an engineering team member or a construction team member, some of us all sat in this large building in Waltham, and a lot of people would just use a messenger or an email or pick up the phone. I like to go walk across the building, sit down with them, make sure they have the time, and have the discussion and talk about the project, where they stand on the deliverables, when they think they can get it to me. But I found that I got a lot better answers and upfront honesty back to when I was going to get this by having that face-to-face conversation. And I've carried that through today to my management style.
That's great. Thanks, Jason.
Look over to me, Jason. All right, I'm going to be asking a couple labor and organizational culture questions. The first one, Rmld is a union-based organization with ongoing contract negotiations. What's your philosophy on contract negotiations, and how have you approached your previous leadership roles when dealing with union workforce?
Okay. First, I'd like to, when I try to negotiate, I like to set clear goals and objectives, try to be upfront and transparent about what's available to discuss. Part of, in Danvers, as the engineering ops manager, I'm more of a side team member on the negotiations where I provide information or stuff like that. But a lot of the times what I've done is I've gone through and read the contracts, looked for areas for improvement or any gray areas that may have caused potential issues with like dealing with certain situations to make sure we try to clean up some of that language that doesn't linger. That can also become, depending on what it is, could become a bargaining chip for something else. I've actually been on the other side of negotiations where for a short time in Danvers, I was the union president for the engineering group, which was also unique because it wasn't just electric employees that are in that group. We also had a lot of the town, rest of the town department group. So trying to look at that and trying to figure out what to negotiate on that when you have a bunch of different departments that do completely different things, and what they need and want, and so kind of pull that together. As far as dealing with the unions, I have a very good relationship with. I have two unions in Danvers. The one, the T for the engineers, and then I have ASME unit, which is our line ops and our tech services. I work very closely with them. We're everything's been very smooth. They know when we have contract issues, we work through it, we talk through it, we come to a compromise, and we're in a good spot.
Okay, next part of the question is, how would you foster positive organizational culture?
Okay.
Top to bottom.
First off, like I kind of lead by example. I make sure I'm always present. I got the open door, very open and direct in my communication. I'm very transparent. My actions meet my words. And then as far as culture, I got a couple of small stories. So in our line department, not too long ago, we did have a few issues down our line department with certain things going on, but I had always tried to push to get a rodeo team for the NEPA rodeo competition, and I couldn't get anybody to ever sign up. So, we were they said that they would like us to get them certain things so that they could practice and or tools and whatever they needed for it. So I had assigned a person to work with them on that, thinking that would get that going. And then they were talking and we were trying to get updates, and then there still wasn't a lot of movement. So we went down and sat down with them and said, I'd like to have a rodeo team. I think it would be very good for Danvers to have one. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it would help prove things. What do I or we need to do so that we can get at least 3 people to sign up for a team? And then they gave their list of like what we want. We would need a bunch of tools and accessories. We want a practice yard. We want a practice time, because if we're going to do this, we want to compete. And I said, that's it. We're going to do it. And so to make sure that they knew that, I met with them every other week, got their list of what they needed, started having it ordered. It started showing up. Next thing you know, I didn't have just one team. I had 2 teams this year. The first year after meeting that demand. So half of our line force competed in the NEPA rodeo. They did pretty well. Everybody was super motivated after that. Super, like they want to go win it next year. The rest of the team that didn't enjoy, well, to make sure there wasn't any hard feelings, while they were practicing, we allowed them to do some things that we weren't asking them to do major construction projects, but get some things done. But, and the culture down there improved immensely. One of the other things that we did that has worked is, because as I mentioned, the business division is DPW and electric. So they oversee the billing systems and getting the bills up to customers. And in the past, like with our meter data management system, when that was put into place, they kind of ran it. So they didn't allow a lot of engineering access to that data. We were able to get a transformer load report, but it eventually broke. And so I worked closely with the business manager. We started meeting regularly. I now have a bi-weekly meeting with business, my engineering, and the IT, which is also town, not electric, where we walk through all of the different priorities that we have and where we intersect and try to get that going. And we started fostering a good relationship where we got a lot of other reports into the meter data management for engineering purposes, like on-demand voltage reports. And so that culture got better. And then to even make it better, the town has a Halloween competition. It is that time of the year. Last year, the business division and the electric engineering got together, decided on a theme, and we all dressed up in that theme because the town is a costume contest. And we went down, everybody got involved, everybody had a good time. We went down, we actually won the competition. We came back, and it just started fostering some of those relationships where you might not necessarily talk to everybody all the time, but it just kind of got that spirit going. And
what was your costume?
it was dodgeball. So the business division was Not Your Average Joe's, and the electric engineering group was the Purple Cobras.
Well, another question. What support or structures do you find most effective in leading labor relations?
So for support, I understand that in Reading, the general manager would be the go-between between the labor unions and the board. So the support that in that instance that I look for is you know, what are the goals, what are the guidelines, what are the rails, that I need to negotiate within, and then you know, try to work towards that. And then depending on, and then have meeting up and giving updates on that and getting feedback as to where things might need to go or change or what the feeling is. But from a support standpoint, it's more just given the clear guidelines and goals. To help.
And one more, can you share a specific example when challenging labor negotiations have led you or what you've led or participated in? What was the situation and how did you work towards resolution? And you kind of answered those already, so I think that
Got another one.
makes sense.
Okay, do you have anything else? Any others?
Not really.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm going to be talking about stakeholder engagements and communication. And so the first question would be is how would you foster trust and maintain open, transparent communications with key stakeholders, including the Board of Commissioners, who are the ultimate decision makers?
Okay. Throughout my career, I've had to do that. And I'll just start my current role as engineer operations manager at Danvers. I present to our light board monthly, to keep them up to date on any engineering operations, construction projects that are going on, in the electric division. So I keep them very informed. I have handouts. I present every month. I keep updated on reliability numbers, stuff like that. From National Grid, it's not necessarily an elected board, but they have the leadership team or the leadership board, and as a project manager, we would have to go to their monthly meetings to present a paper, you know, to request funding and schedule to get approval for all that. So one example of that was one of the big projects was to replace an existing 345 kV gas insulated substation, to replace it in kind. And we had gone through the RFP process and we wanted to award, and we had a couple finalists. And we had been kind of negotiating with both of them, and it became clear during that process that one of the manufacturer vendors had a better proposal. But at that point, when we looked at price, they were $1 million more than the other. So typically, we would have to go with a lower priced one. So worked with the project team to develop a good case as to why the slightly more expensive substation was the way to go, and why we felt that, and presented that to the board and got their approval to kind of not do the standard and that. So keeping everybody, having the team, stakeholders, for one of the key stakeholders obviously is customers. So with my team in Danvers, I make sure that we keep our outage map up to date as close as possible. We don't have a 24-hour dispatch, so it's not like in the middle of the night. It takes a little bit to get it up to date, but we make sure that any outage gets out to the outage map as quickly as they can do it, to make sure that's communicated. We have a process where we reach out to the communications team for town hall to make sure they can push out outage notifications out to the social media. And then from a project standpoint, on any larger construction project, we make sure that we either put out door knockers or letters to any abutters in the area prior to the start of construction to let them know what to expect upcoming, and then a number they can reach out to get any information or if they have any questions. So we do the stakeholder, we keep up to date all the time.
Perfect. So that blends into the second part of the question of, from your perspective in style of leadership, what do you think is your most critical stakeholders if you were the general manager, and how would you build that relationship with those people, as far as some of the people that you mentioned, or the groups that you just mentioned?
Okay. For Reading, I would think some of the biggest key stakeholders, obviously the Board of Commissioners and the CAB, the ratepayers, because Reading has 4 towns that report to it, keeping each of the town managements up to date. That's a key stakeholder. And then of course the employees are another important stakeholder. So being open and transparent with them, communicating all the different objectives, having common goals. You know, the goals get set by the board. Jim has goals, making sure that some of those goals filter down into the rest of the departments and teams to make sure that everybody's going in the same direction.
All right, and last, So there were three parts to this whole question. The last one is just to give us a specific example of when you successfully engaged with the board of Danvers or here and aligned with the strategic initiatives to build that, what your vision is and how that moved forward.
Can you repeat that?
So can you share a specific example of when a time you successfully engaged with the board or other stakeholders to align with a strategic initiative and build a mutual confidence in the outcome?
I point back to that example, with like that National Grid. I know it's a little bit different board, but it was an executive board on moving forward and making sure that they're in alignment with that project, because there was some very specific needs with that GIS substation. There was a lot of wetlands in that area, and that, you know, trying to have a solution that minimized wetlands impacts. One of the vendors was better at it, but making sure that we were able to get that project through, because that was one issue, because gas insulated substations have SF6 in them. So on that one, that we really needed to replace that one because it was leaking. And that was a very important climate objective goal, strategic goal for National Grid at the time, was to reduce those SF6 emissions.
Yeah.
So making sure that we were able to push the right solution to that with the minimal impact. So even though the project, the RFP was maybe $1 million more, not having to replicate wetlands all throughout the community, probably might have actually overall saved money in the long run.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Getting near the end, Jason. Last one to ask you questions. What do you hope to accomplish in your first year as general manager?
What I'd like to accomplish in the first year as general manager at Reading would be to come in, get to know all. I have some luxury of being on been on the advisory board, knowing what some of the projects are and some of the initiatives, but coming in, getting to know the different departments and groups, what they're working on, what are the priorities, getting everybody together, start to push forward. But I mentioned earlier, kind of getting back, taking a look at what they're working on, whether the projects, what are the priorities, finding a common vision and goal to get to the core business of our Reading Light Department, which is keeping the lights on, low cost, and increasingly carbon free or neutral. Trying to get back into those core aspects, try to pick the major projects that would have the biggest bang for your buck, getting everybody starting to focus on those, working together as a team to start pushing that, and then and gaining trust with that is along the way, being very open to my communication and expectations so that everybody is clear, and then start to maybe towards the end of the year start to look at how that's going, and then what else can we start to add in that might be a stretch goal, and so to add that might meet some other criteria.
Good, thank you. How do you find success in leadership role like this, and how would you measure it? What sort of metrics would you be looking for as to measure and monitor a GM? I mean, been part of discussions of that sort of thing on the cab. What?
Making sure that that what Reading is doing is on having the budget, working towards the budget, staying within the budget. Would look at certain metrics on that throughout the year, looking at spend versus actual spend versus budgeted. Start to look at some of the metrics on, are we forecasting to overspend on certain things? Are we looking to underspend on other things? Success would be, some of the things would be like the union negotiations, trying to get those wrapped up, making sure those were complete. I would look at that as success. Also, just the culture, just starting to see if we're looking to change culture, it's a slow process, but just looking to see some positives in the culture. Just seeing just gauging on how the employees are doing, having check-ins with department heads, just trying to feel like, is it starting to get better? And then looking at the schedules of that, when you look at the budget, it's basically a large portfolio of projects and project management, which I experience. Is just, are we on track to complete what we said we're going to complete? And if not, what can we do to get it back on track?
Before I end with the big question, just one more in terms of logistics. Are there any constraints that might affect your ability to start in January 2026?
No.
Okay, last question. Why do you want this job? Why do you feel you're the right fit for the GM role at RMLD? Yeah. Do.
No, I, having been a member of the advisory board, looking at the initiatives, some of the initiatives that Reading is doing, it's very exciting. I want to be a part of that. I have some of that in Danvers. It's a little bit different setup in Danvers where we're part of the town. So some of that stuff is a little bit harder to accomplish in Danvers, even though, I enjoy my time in Danvers. But some of this, the stuff that Reading is doing and trying to get into the future, I'm excited about, want to get involved with. I'm also a ratepayer. So I feel like my, the Reading's goals and my goals as a ratepayer are in alignment. I like that my power does not go out, and I like to keep it that way. I'm also very passionate about this industry. I'm always involved. I'm always coming in, helping my team out, off hours if needed. I love the electric utility industry. I love to talk shop. I can talk all day about it. Just very passionate. And I just feel like Reading and this role would help me get there and continue in that realm of what I've been doing in Danvers, and just have that little extra things that I might not necessarily do in Danvers, but I can do it here.
Any questions for us before we let you have the rest of the evening off?
No, I think I'm good at this time.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else that you were hoping that we would ask you that we didn't ask you and you want to share?
No, I think I touched on most of it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again. It's great to see you here. We appreciate your time and interest, and I know sitting in front of a panel like this is not easy, so I appreciate your engagement on this, and thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, so what we will do is we're going to take a 10-minute break. We can take care of your needs, and then also maybe just give yourself a little bit of time to reflect on your notes and scores while it's fresh. And then we will start again at, why don't we say 7:10?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you can go right here. Yeah.
Oh, I see that. Thank you.
Welcome.
It's spelled correctly. I'm impressed already.
We have a
I made
great
sure.
team over there.
I made sure.
Well, I guess. You would.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank
We're,
you.
very excited to have you here.
And
I know
likewise.
we've met, but I'm Pam Daskalakis, the board chair, and this is the Board of Commissioners here and the Citizens Advisory Board over here. So I'll just talk to you a little bit about how this is going to
Sure.
work. And just before I jump into the process tonight, I want you to know that our plan is that we will not complete deliberations tonight.
Okay.
We're going to do that tomorrow at a meeting at noon.
Okay.
So you will hear decisions after that point.
Oh,
So no
that's
need to
very
hang
fast.
around and
Great.
wait. So, but in terms of this evening, we're going to allocate about 50 minutes for
Okay.
the interview. We have 7 different sections. I'll kind of cover the first 2, and then we'll have the remainder of the board as well as one of our CAB members talk through different topics, about 8 minutes each. And we'll go through a few questions
Sure.
in each of those. Okay. Any questions before we jump in?
No.
Okay.
Hopefully, can everyone hear me all right? I mean, I know this is on, so.
I can hear you great. Everybody's good?
Good.
Check is all good. Okay. And if you see me looking at this, I'm just going to do some time increase. So first of all, thanks again. Welcome. And thank you for your interest in working at Rmld as our general manager. Just want to ask you just for a couple minutes to just give us a broad kind of overview of yourself, your experience, and particularly in the public or private power utility.
Sure. So, well, I have most of my career has been in energy. I did go to school in Washington, D.C., so I did start off with very much involved in politics, but then met my husband, moved back up here to New England, and got a position in the city government, then went and worked for the MWRA. And from that, I learned a lot about project management and building projects, and a lot of it in water and sewer. And then Tennessee Gas Pipeline, who is a gas company, said, "Hey, how do you get all these projects built?" And they said, "Oh, you need to talk to Mary Yusevich." And next thing I know, I was hired by Tennessee Gas Pipeline to build most of the pipes that they did in that time span, from the 90s all the way up to the early 2000s. And then I went to work for Repsol. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they were an LNG company that built a facility up in Hannahport, and they brought down LNG gas down the Maritimes into Beverly and Drake. And then they had to sell all of their assets when YPF got in Argentina, political mess and everything. So there wasn't much of a future there. And I started also understanding that gas in New England did not have a long life to it, that there was a movement towards going to renewables and less dependence on gas. And the funny thing is, I was very close to the renewable community because they embraced me in the beginning, because they were like, "You're going to get rid of oil and coal for us. Thank you, thank you." And then all of a sudden we got rid of oil and coal, and now they were like, "Now we need to get rid of you." So, which was understandable. I could understand the hope of going to non-carbon. So I started to look around to see where I could go into a field in TRC, which is an engineering company. Knew the president there and said, "I want to get really into the electrical side." So he put me in charge of business development and a vertical, which also had some gas, but a lot more electric. So I started working on large transmission projects and very large substation work, and got to know the electric side really well. But I had a tremendous interest in the renewable side. So I did start working a little bit on the NECEC project and hydro, which brought me to UMass Lowell, because as part of the NECEC project down from Maine, from Hydro-Quebec, they did a partnership with UMass Lowell, and UMass Lowell at the time, she's the chancellor now, she said, "Can you come on the team and help us with energy innovation?" So I started working on WindStar and offshore wind projects, and started to look at other technologies to enhance. We did infrared drones and things of that nature to provide energy efficiency and things of that nature. And then I was working at UMass Lowell when someone said Merrimack is looking to hire a general manager. They have gone through, I think at that time it was 4 GMs in 1.5 years, and they really don't have anybody interested in the job. Because I said, one thing I would really like to get involved in is understanding the distribution on a local level. And they said, so here's your chance, run for it. So I interviewed and got hired, and I've been general manager at Merrimack for 3 years.
Great.
And that brings me today.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hopefully that was short enough.
That was great. Just fine. So I'm going to just ask a few questions around sort of leadership, decision-making, crisis management. So if you could just start by describing your leadership and management style, and specifically, how do you handle disagreements with your team or make difficult decisions?
Yeah, sure. So I know people use the words collaborative and team, but I actually walk the walk and talk, and it's really something I put into practice. Especially when I started in the distribution system, even though I had over 25 years in energy. Remember, this was a new area for me, and I was very open and honest with my team. And I think they really enjoyed it because then they became like teachers and we worked collaboratively together. And I'll give you one example. I came in and I had been working on line loss analysis when I was at UMass Lowell, and I came into Merrimack and I noticed that we had 14.7% line loss. And I'm like, wait a second, this is way too high for a distribution system like that. It's on average about 6%. So I brought everyone in a room together and I said, hey, let's start brainstorming. Let's figure out where this could be. And actually it was my first I think it was apprentice still. His dad had been the superintendent or general foreman, and he said, could it be that transformers were keeping warm over in Burnside? So Burnside was a substation that we had abandoned and had consolidated over into 20 Federal Way. I was like, what do you mean? He's, well, we're keeping those transformers warm because somebody thinks they're valuable and we could sell them. So I'm like, well, that could very much be the cause, but being new, I didn't want to just, rip the plug and said, maybe this person had a valid reason to keep them warm. So I went out on an effort of trying to sell transformers, substation transformers, great price. They're for sale. Come pick them up and give us a little money. And I found out they wanted to charge me. Everyone that came said $6,000, $5,000, $10,000. I'm like, no, I don't want to pay. I want you to take them. And I was like, you can take them for free. And, but nobody had the 4 kV that, so it was a very limited market. I finally found someone out of New York that paid me $1,000 and took them away. And when we took those offline, we went down to 6%. So that's where I think and everyone really liked that model. And we used it several times, other cases, but it was really for me to say, come on, you guys know you're out there, you're on the front line. Tell me what you think. And so that is where the team, I like to mentor people too. I had a customer service rep. She had never done customer service, and now she's a rising star in customer service. So she had never done social media. She never did web management, something I have a lot of area of expertise in, and she loves it now. And when she came to the job, I knew she had the right temperament, the right intellect, but she was concerned that she didn't have the skill set. And I said, that's okay. I can mentor you. And now you'll be a rising star. And that's what she is. So those are basically my management style. How do I handle crisis? Well, first of all, I wrote the crisis management plan for Repsol. So if anybody knows, gas is very concerned about safety. It's something we drill in every day on the gas. So that has always been one of my top priority. I will never compromise on safety. I've grown up in the energy industry where we were given reports, 0 incident days. Congratulations, 0 incident day. I start all my meetings with a safety tip. Every meeting, we do a safety tip. And people know that, and the guys come prepared. Okay, we got to have a safety tip. She's going to ask us, what's the safety tip? So that's it. And so the crisis communication, I had to do a detailed plan on how to handle it. It's basically preparing, planning, and executing. So when you do any kind of crisis communication plan, the best thing is to do simulated exercises. Because once people do lots of simulated exercises, when the incident happens, you just go into the mode that you have been trained on. And that's what I find is the success when you're dealing with crisis. Is everybody knows their role, everybody knows what their responsibility is. And then you have contingencies because you're not going to always have all the same people that you need there. So you always say you are the backup person for this, and you train them on that as well.
Can you share a specific example of a time that you led an organization through a major operational disruption, like a system-wide outage or storm situation?
Well, I think it's one that you guys hopefully will never experience. I was very first year I was on the job, only a couple of months in, and our board of selectmen at 10 o'clock in the night, the last issue that they took up, said, let's sell the light department. So I got into the office the next morning and people started popping up on our Facebook feed. Hey, is the light department for sale? I heard the selectmen said they're selling it. And I was like, news to me, no one consulted me about this. So my commissioners came running in, everyone, the staff, like, are we for sale? Are we for sale? And like getting information. So it turned out they did. They said at town meeting they were going to try to sell us. It's I can tell you everything about being sold. And they had to get 2 townwide meeting votes. They did it at the hopefully crunch time, so there wouldn't be enough time for organize. And I said, oh, well, we got a campaign on our hands. So I divided up. I called the union. I had the union come and I said, okay, I need money and I can't spend the light money. So hopefully you have some money because we need lawn signs. We need brochures. We need ads. And that's going to cost money and I cannot use light money. And they're like, okay, we'll pay. So I got that set. Then I called the commissioners and I said, have you ever campaigned? Oh yeah, well, we ran for light commission. I said, no, campaign, like really campaign. And they're like, no, not really. So I, said to them, but you have to be the face. I can't be out there. So you have to do the lawn signs. You have to do the literature drops and things of that nature. So they were actually having sometimes fun with it. So they kind of did all that. We had a town meeting measure and, normally they get about 100 people for town meeting. It was a cold, rainy night. And there was a mile long, because you have to register to vote, because this is going to take a 2/3 vote and had to be registered. A mile long of people waiting in the rain, in the cold to register. And the town was very strategic. They blocked all the parking, so people had to park 2 miles away and walk in. We had 782 people against selling the light department and 6 for it. And we have 3 selectmen and they're all married. So talk about being thrown into a situation of crisis and the potential of people not having a job. That was one of the first salvo that they did. So we're good for a couple of years now and we're safe, but that was a learning experience. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm going to just follow up with a maybe just like a slightly different type of
Sure.
Disruption in terms of your approach to dealing with whether it's storm management or crisis, like an outage type of crisis.
Yeah. So I can give you 2. I'll give you a storm one and then I'll give you a very interesting one. So we, as I told you, we no longer have Burnside substation, but we never removed the reclosure to where our new substation was. So one day, the feeder from National Grid, they had an out, and then we had to get the reclosure, and the guys go, oh, the town's out. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. The phones are ringing off the home. Well, the reclosure, somebody's got to go down there and take a computer that the former GM got from put together with Radio Shack pieces and go up and kind of do something like push these buttons. And I'm like, and they're telling me this over the radio. I'm like, excuse me, did you say Radio Shack? They're like, yep. I'm like, no. So they got it up and going. And I called him and I said, oh no, we're not doing this again. Reliability is my second most important thing. And I told you that when I started. So we ended up moving the reclosure over to the substation, getting 2 new reclosures, to us that are fiber fed, everything. We've never had a townwide outage. So, I mean, it was very interesting that they were just like, that's just the way it is. And I'm like, no, that's not acceptable, you know, business as usual. So we are changing that. And then we had a townwide outage, very bad storm. And I learned a lot from it. And I put in a bunch of different procedures because they didn't have a set of procedures listed. Like we didn't have someone bird dogging because we only had 4 linemen. So basically when you're doing 2 poles are down, you need all 4 to do the work. So I implemented a bird dogger where we brought in a retired lineman to come. So he is basically, we have him under contract. We don't pay him unless he works. And he was my bird dogger because they would rely on fire and police to do bird dogging. And we almost had an incident. So this is what they had told me was the established procedure, that when we're busy doing work in one end of the town and people are calling in. And fortunately, this way the lady described it, I was like, I don't think that's communication. I think that that's our electric outlet, you know, like it's off the house. So I told my lineman, I don't care what you do. I need you to stop, go down and check it out. And he said, thank God you did, because you had half hour and probably the house would have burnt down. So I implemented a whole new procedure. And like I said, I got this retired linemen to come on and do bird dogging for us, and that's what we put into place. So we have it really good. We have scripts that I've designed for all the customer service people that come in. We have basically a Facebook feed that we provide. People will tell them we're getting updates. We're working into updating our AMI system. So we had AMI, but they were, as I tell people, they were smart, but they're not smart anymore because they were in 2008. So our new AMI system will allow us to do an outage map and texting. So we're working towards that.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Commissioner Talbot.
Thank you so much for coming
Come on.
and applying, and thank you for being here. I want to ask you about strategic vision and long-term planning. First question is, what do you see as RMLD's most pressing strategic challenges over the next 5 to 10 years, and how would you prioritize addressing them?
Well, basically, from what I have been able to observe externally, and of course, I might change my point of view as I get in here internally, is that I'd like to get back to basics. I'd like to get to the 3 core pillars that I think are the basis of most of the MLPs. And what I see that is, like, as I started off, I said safety, both public and internal, are their top priority, and that will not be compromised. I think reliability, resiliency, and looking at grid stability is very important as my next pillar. And then it does come down to cost, being cost competitive. I have read your roadway technology paper that you wrote that was online. I found that very interesting. Loved it. I would add also drones. I think drones could play a role, especially in detecting line loss, just because of the infrared. I would look at your Hendrix. I'm at 95% Hendrix. I know roughly you're about 80%. I kind of found that somewhere. But I also looked at the age of transformers. We did a GIS layer on our transformers, and we did an entire inventory. We did a crib analysis too on our GIS layer. So we are actually putting a schedule on our transformers and looking at through our crib analysis of having to upgrade or split the cribs. And then the other thing is getting into reliability is the vegetation management. I've actually implemented a vegetation management plan that actually came out in the RFP very competitive. I broke it into zones, and my zones were basically 3 piles, the main feed zone, which is your main line. And then I broke it into the different primary, the taps, and then the sub taps. So I broke that into 3 zones. The reason that I got an incredibly competitive price on my vegetation is I didn't do it based on, I said, give me a price on the zone. You can do it whenever you want, okay, as long as they meet the ordinances, noise ordinance, all. But you just give me a price on the zone, and the rule is it has to get completed in this time frame, and it has to be inspected by my foreman. And then we're good to go. Mayor Tree came in extremely less than all others. And I finally, after I awarded him the bid, I said, why? And he said, because the biggest problem I have is scheduling. And the fact is that you let me design my schedule. So I could have like a tree job that's a resident, say in the neighborhood, and I could say, okay, go over and do that in the morning and the rest of the afternoon be in Merrimack. So he said, it was incredible. So he said, I wanted this because this is the way people should do vegetation. Leave it up to the tree company to schedule it instead of doing a time use. So those are the things, hopefully that answers your question, but those are my 3 pillars.
Just to follow up quickly on that same question. So obviously load growth is predicted over the next couple of decades, perhaps very significant load growth. And at the same time, and since I brought it up last time, I'll do it again, is that there's a projection on the state's website as far as we'll have 7 to 26 more over 90-degree days by the mid-century. So that's only 25 years from now than we do today. So things are getting hotter, and they're gonna have a lot more of those heat waves. Plus you have load growth. So this provides for, what are your strategies for addressing those challenges?
Well, that's why I focused in on the transformers and doing the crib analysis, because we are that same concern that we have, is to make sure that we have the adequate supply that we need out in the distribution system. The other thing is with that, I also was concerned about transmission and capacity costs going through the roof. And so one of the things I was able to do is I was able to purchase a 1.4 megawatt gas-fired generator at our substation. It was a cost-sharing project with Duke that the town had put in. It hadn't only ran for 2 years. It was offline for 3 years because of an SCR. An SCR part was not working. The SCR was not working. So, and I read a lot. I read a lot of the journals and things of that nature. And I came across a speech that the CEO of Duke said, which he wanted to get out of carbon emitting programs or equipment or things of that nature. And I wrote him a note and I said, oh, by the way, I'm the general manager in Merrimack Light, and you have a carbon emitting generator on our property that we did a cost sharing project for. Would you like to sell it, since I know you want to get out of this business? And he sent me a guy, a very young business development guy. He goes, oh, well, in the PPA. And I said, yes, I know. I used to write PPAs. He said, there's a provision in there. You can buy it. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to buy it for $2 million. He goes, well, what do you want to pay for? And I said, a yard sale price. And he goes, okay, I'm confused. And then time went by, and then I got this guy who was given the responsibility of getting rid of these carbon emitting generators. And he said, I have one question for you. What did you mean by yard sale price? I said, well, when you go to a yard sale and you pick up an item that says $5, you offer the person $1. If they fight with you, you say, okay, it's not a yard sale, it's an estate sale. And he says, oh, so you want it cheap? And I said, bingo. And he said, okay. Well, he said, I can't let it go for less than this. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll agree to that price, but every day you don't get the SCR done, I'll lower the price every day. So that'll be incentive for you to get the SCR repaired, and it'll be an opportunity for me to get it at a lower price. And we closed on the generator December 16th for $541,000. It was appraised at 2.2, and it was original cost was 3.2. So now we have already saved 292 last year, and we're projected to save next year 322.
Great. I think we're pretty tight within this category, but let me just add the one more of it. How would you engage stakeholders, and what stakeholders would you engage in shaping and executing RMLD's strategic vision?
And when you mean internal stakeholders or external?
Well, you have adjust staff a little bit, so you both, but
okay.
But also the external ones, and which ones?
Yeah, so external, I'm big on external. I believe that we do a great service to the community, and it's important that we keep the community informed and let them be aware of different programs and what we're trying to offer. I implemented several programs to do that type of engagement. I do a program called Ask the General. I do that on a quarterly basis. It's an open forum. You can come. I schedule it at a later time, like 7 at night. So people, when they come home from work and things of that nature, they can go. I'll answer any question you have about our system, operations, anything. And they're very popular and people love to come in because they always have different topics and they learn from each other. Another thing so that is one area I've put together. I'm very big on our Facebook. I redid our entire webpage. I must say, not to be critical, but our webpage, we have only 3,000 meters and we have 1,500 followers on our Facebook. You have 30,000 meters and you have 1,400 followers, which in our analysis, and I brought along my analytics too from my webpage, which I'll be glad to share with you guys. We do a lot of engagement through those types of tools. So we do it through our website. We do it through our Facebook posts. Which amounts people. I do a post every month on a different topic for people to understand. So I'm just trying to think of all the other things. We also do a great way of getting people involved to understand about projects through what I call Electrify Merrimack. So we took our energy conservation money and we said, instead of us coming up with programs, we're going to let the community vote on the program. So any nonprofits or municipality organization can supply a project up to $5,000. And what we do is do a ballot and then the public votes on which one they want to see that money go to. And then we enhance it. So this year's winner was the senior center. They still have, they've needed to do overall their lighting to LED lighting, and they were the winner. The community loves it because, first of all, we educated them about the importance of LED lighting. We talked about our free light bulbs in the office. Then we talked about the need to understand, basically how we have to conserve. The other way we've done programs is I've just been rolling out our whole AMI, and I've been trying to get people to understand time of use and dealing with off-peak, on-peak concepts, which it's a difficult. So I go to various types of organizations. When they have their meetings, I ask if I could be a guest speaker, and then I go talk about electricity. So engaging the community, I think, is extremely important. And once you become a source of resource for them to ask questions, and I say there is no stupid questions, ask away, they all of a sudden really take an interest in it. And then when we have to tell them that we have to do something, they have a trusted partner. They feel that they can trust me, that I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to give them exactly what is, why we need to do it, why we needed to do it this way.
Are we out of time? Okay, all right. I have to pass the baton.
I'll try to keep my answer shorter. Apologize.
Chair Swanson.
Yeah. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
So these questions are around the themes of execution, resilience, and results. And so the first one just says, can you share an example of a time when a project didn't go as you had planned? And what did you learn from it? How those lessons influenced your current leadership style?
Yes. So as I told you, our gatekeepers were dying when I came there. And the commissioner said, one of the first things we have to do is look at our meters. They're very old. They're since 2008. So I had a meeting with Eaton. I had a meeting with Honeywell. They had basically had talked about doing an RFP, but Honeywell said, you already have our system. And and Eaton, they had done an RFP with the town of Wellesley, and they had gotten a price. So Eaton was looking at doing the whole system over. New servers, new gatekeepers, all new meters, and it had a price tag of $635,000. Honeywell said, we can do it all for $100,000. All you have to do is change out the gatekeepers. $100,000, $635,000. To me, seemed like a no-brainer. So I changed out the gatekeepers. I did have it, and I have it in writing. I did ask a lot of questions, and they told me, yes, the rec ones can be read by the new gatekeepers. You will have no trouble. We tested it out in Canada. Totally not a problem. So we changed out the gatekeepers. Guess what happened? 950, and we only have 3,000 did not read. I had to do, of course, estimates, you know, and it was not a happy time because we had never done that in the town of Merrimack, and people were confused about that, and it was a big mess. And I learned a very important lesson from that is that, you know what, when someone tells me, don't worry, guaranteed, I really should have done a deeper dive. I should have gone out and said, I want to talk to the people in Canada. I want to make sure they use rec ones and things of that nature. So I learned a very invaluable lesson, and I will never be fooled like that again. I have to say the end of the story is Honeywell came out and they put in 4 more additional gatekeepers. They never charged us. They paid, they came out and they paid for all the overtime we had to do the manual reads for the ones that weren't reading. And on top of that, the only problem is that we had to go out and redo all the meters at once. We were going to phase out the meters over a 5-year period, and now we're doing them all at once. And that's the only downside of it. But end of next year, we'll be totally all fully new AMIs with new gatekeepers. And the one good thing was, yes, the server did work and it's cloud-based now.
Great, thank you. The next question says, can you describe a time when you faced a significant operational challenge or an unexpected setback and you had to act quickly in order to deliver the results? You could talk a little bit about your role and perhaps the outcome.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I have one of the best foremen known to mankind, and he does a really good job when we sit down and do the capital because he really thinks out through everything. We think it out strategically with the timeline. I think it's more what happened was we had a capital project. We were in the process of doing it. Then we had this curveball given to us with the AMI, and we thought we could actually do the change out of the meters, but then we got a second curveball given to us that we had not anticipated, and that was the opportunity for Rmld to come in and do fiber. So that is, we're struggling with that right now, doing the scheduling. So the way I address that is I went to Rmld and say, how much do you want this fiber? And they go, oh, more than you could ever understand. I said, well, I'm going to price out the job on overtime. And if you can pay that, we can do this while we're doing the AMI and our capital project. So they were amenable to that. So now the way we're adjusting the schedule is the guys are doing overtime for the fiber project and still maintaining our schedules for the other 2 major projects we have going on.
Okay, great, thank you. And then my last question relates to accountability and follow through, but it just says, how do you feel like you can ensure accountability and follow through while leading through complex initiatives? How has that worked in your experience?
I have a very good commissioners. I have to say, I really, really enjoy all 3 of the guys. They all bring their own skill sets there. And my accountability ends with them. I come into them, I tell them my ideas. I come with a lot of information. I bring a lot of the deep dive. I go out and talk to other MLPs to see how they do things, where their experience, pros and cons. I give them my action plan of how I'm going to proceed. I tell them where there's risk and what the level of the risk is. And that seems to work very well because when we execute, they have a full knowledge of what's going to happen. And I have to tell you, if we run into a bump in the road, they have been 100% behind me. And I cannot thank them enough. They're always there. They're like, hey, she told us this could be the bump in the road. And, you know, she had told us about it and we'll get through this. So we just recently had it happen. We have an old building at 10 West Main Street. We tried to do the renovation. The cost was cost prohibitive. The renovations were $395,000. The value of the building is $400,000. It's a bad investment. So I did all my work and analysis and everything. And I said, we really should merge down in the garage and bring the offices down there. It'll be less cost in terms of duplication of services, and we can make this happen. And I said, but the problem is we have to get a 2/3 vote from the town. And you know how the Board of Selectmen feels about us, and you know how the Finance Committee, which is made up of town members, the department heads, not the residents. And I said, so there could be a chance that they don't allow us to sell 10 West Main Street. And that just happened the other night. So we went before town meeting. I had done postings and meetings and everything. But when the Board of Selectmen all vote except for one against it, and the Finance Committee, which listened to the Board of Selectmen and said that we never purchased the property legally, which we had done legal analysis, we did not get the votes. And the commissioners, the next day I said to them, I'm very sorry. I thought I'd done it. And they said, no, Mary, you laid it all out for us. You did all the homework. You did all the analysis. You had all the financial information. And you told us that could be a possible outcome. We cannot be dissatisfied with what you did. So we're regrouping and trying to figure out the next plan. But I would say that that's how I have my accountability, is from them. And the residents, which I'll give you the other thing. We just won a silver award, and you can see our success. We had 98% in terms of reliable service to customers, 100% for restoring power outages, and they're all in the 90s. The only one that we got dinged on, which is why we didn't get a gold, is on providing, basically offering innovative programs. And that's something I'm working on with E&E through looking at the HER program. It's the people, we had done a deal with Homeworks where they went out and did the mass save for the gas customers. And the people were like, but I don't have gas, I have oil. And I said, yes, I understand that. But the nice part of working with Homework is they're giving us all their analytics so that we'll know what worked best in the community. Was it direct mail? Was it canvassing? Was it phone calling? And we're going to take that data, and hopefully we are selected for the HER pilot, and we're going to try to offer those services.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And I know I didn't make enough because I did not realize I'm done. No apology, but if everyone can share, we'll share.
All right, hi, Mary, I'm gonna ask you the next question.
Yes. Ready.
It's gonna be on labor relations and organizational culture. So the first one, RMLD is a union-based organization with ongoing negotiations. What is your philosophy on collective bargaining, and how have you approached labor relations in your leadership roles?
So I am 99% union in my shop too. And I have done a CBA, a 3-year, that'll be up next year. So I should give you full disclosure. My husband was the mayor of the city of Salem, and over the years, watching him negotiate multiple unions, I have always had a fascination about labor relations, and I've picked his brains to the point where he's like, okay, enough. But I did want to learn as much as I can, knowing I was going into an all union shop. So what I had to do is set the expectation from my commissioners. They, one commissioner wanted to come in really hard, like we're not giving them anything. And I said, well, let me do some work before we even develop a strategy on how to approach the CBA. So what I did is I got analysis from all over the region, in terms of within the 30-minute drive. So I wanted to show that the commissioners, in my negotiation strategy, is that there are 4 openings within the 30-minute drive. Okay, so we need to know what the alternative is if they wanted to leave. Now, I only have 4 linemen. So you have to understand, I lose 1 lineman, I'm out of business. So retention is extremely important to me. That might not be the case as much at RMLD, but that was the situation for me. So I wanted to get that point across to my commissioners. So what I did is I advertised for a first-class lineman to see how many applications would I get. Would I be flooded with applications? I would like to ask you guys, how many applications do you think? We ran it on everything, on NEPA, on President, we went union shop, everything. We ran it everywhere. How many applications do you think I got?
4.
Nope. 0. I got 0 applications for a first-class lineman. I got a lot of people who wanted to be apprentice, which was great, and we ended up getting an apprentice, but I got 0 first-class linemen. So I gave a bit of reality to my commissioners. I said, let me give you the reality. We're 12-hour standby, and everybody in the region is 21. We are about $2.50 less than everybody else, on average. So I said, so we come in hard, we come in strong, we hold the line, okay? And we lose a line. Then what do we do? Because I just advertised for about 6 months and haven't had a single applicant. So they were like, yeah, we need to rethink our strategy. And I said, I'm so glad you think that. So I presented my strategy where we could give and where we could be in compliance with the region and where we could go strong. So a couple of things we did. We got them to agree to do the streetlight programs in 3 communities. So that is an added revenue for us. So during the work hours, they go out and maintain the streetlights in Haverhill, Amesbury, and Salisbury. And we made over 100,000 in extra revenue from them doing that. Yes.
I'm gonna jump
Sure.
to another question. What support or structure do you find the most effective in leading labor relations?
Building trust. When I came in, I looked at their CBA and there was nothing about FR clothing. Nothing. There was no allowance. There was nothing. And I went to the guys and I said, when was the last time you bought some FR clothing? They go, well, we had to bring it up to the general manager and he had inspected. And if he felt it needed to be replaced, he would tell us we could have X number of dollars to replace it. I said, well, that's going to stop today. Well, our CBA is not, I said, I don't care. I am going to write an MOU onto the CBA and we're going to create an allowance for FR clothing. And they go, you're going to just do that? And I said, yes, I am. And they go, why? I said, because safety is #1 priority. I'm not an FR clothing expert. I'm not going to jeopardize your life over allowance that you should have had in your CBA. And I'm sorry they didn't, but we're going to take care of that. And when they saw me take on that voluntarily to say, I am serious about safety, when I got to negotiations, they were like, there was a trust factor there. When I said to them, we really want to do this, but we can't do that, they went, you know what? We trust you, Mary, because you have never, ever bullshitted us. And I hope that's acceptable to say. But it was
Never heard that. Another part of the same genre. Can you share a specific example of a challenging labor negotiation you've had or participated in? And what was the situation and what was the outcome?
So our union is all one union, which is very difficult when you have clerks. And they're outnumbered every time it votes with the linemen. So there's only a finite pool of money. And so if you're going to do one and you have to take from another, then it's like, oh, let's take it to a vote. And of course, it's always going to come out 5 for what the linemen want and 2 for the clerk staff. And I was like, all right, I would have never set up the union like this, but I wasn't here when you created your union. So I went to the commissioners. I said, that's really unfair. The clerks work just as hard. Giving them just a COLA is unfair. And they said, well, how do you expect to address that, Mary? And I said, well, I want to give them an incentive that they could get the match that the guys are getting, the same percentage. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some objectives. And if they're measurable and they meet them, then they can get the same percentage that the guys are getting. Okay, because that's unfair that they're not. And this way, I showed them if they met those objectives, it was going to reduce our costs. So it would be able to be, from our savings, would be able to cover it. Because it was very specific, very detailed objectives. And some of them were things that we were outsourcing that we were going to take in-house. And the clerk were like, yeah, we're good for that. So we have a system now where the clerks have objectives. And if they meet those objectives, they do get the increase. It's a sliding one. So it goes from one percentage to another. So it's not a straight. And it's based on the valuation of those objectives. And that really, was never done before. And it was not really a fair system, I felt.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have about 10 minutes or so, Tim, so I'm gonna, let's try to keep yours to around.
And I will try to do short answers.
No,
Thank you.
kind of quick and easy. It's about stakeholder engagement and communication. So, there's a couple of questions, but I'll just put it into one is, how would you foster trust and maintain open, transparent communication with the key stakeholders, including the Board of Commissioners, our customers, the ratepayers, and how would you go about that?
Well, I think I answered a lot of that, but I will go over to about how our web page is excellent. If you haven't ever gone to it, please go to merrimacklight.com. You'll see it's constantly updated. One of the things is that it's called Where's Waldo, but I call it Where's Lineman. So every day we post where our linemen are. When my husband was a mayor, I always used to resent when people say, those DPW guys, they do nothing. Well, I would say, do you want to be out at 3 o'clock in the morning in knee deep a sewer trying to fix a pipe? I don't think so. And I always thought that those people work hard. So I wanted to get across, our linemen are working all the time. They're not sitting around in the garage. So we do Where's Waldo, we call it Where's the Lineman. The linemen love it now. They send me pictures and we post them and we say, hey, our linemen are out doing this today. You know, putting in a pole, replacing a transformer, things of that nature. And the comments we get are incredible. And then I bring them to the staff meeting and I read them on. And at first the guys are like, oh, we don't want to hear this. Now they get all excited, like, what did they say this week? And it builds morale because they know the community appreciates them and the community feels engaged. And so that's one of the areas we use social media a lot and in order to get across our communication. So I hope that helps with that one. In terms of my board, I inundate my board with a ton of information. They go, it's information overload, Mary. But I said to him, it's better information overload than not enough information because I want you to be informed. I'm making some very important decisions here and I want you to feel confident. Okay. So we are a team. We are working together to become the best light department out of all the 40 light departments. So
Good answer. Thank you.
yeah, no problem.
All set.
All set? Oh, thank you. Overachieving there, Tim. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm sure Commissioner Porter will appreciate the extra minute. So go ahead.
Great. I'm the last person to ask you a question. So we're in the home stretch here.
Oh, glad I can breathe a little bit.
Yes. What do you hope to accomplish in your first year as general manager?
I'd like to get calmness to Reading Municipal Light Department or RMLD. And I don't mean to say that, but I listen. One of the things I'm into is external communication. I don't have to tell you, you've gone through a revolving door situation. I would like to bring stability, calmness, and direction. I think the people that there needs to be a sense that there's somebody driving the ship, driving the bus. We know where we're going. We're all on it together. We're all working for the same common good. So I would like to see that culture, foster that sense of this is the greatest place to work. It is sad if I got this job to leave Merrimack. I really, really love all my employees and my commissioners and the community that I serve. I hope to bring that same spirit because when I got to Merrimack, it was a sad place. They had gone through general manager after general manager. The staff felt skittish. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. They really didn't feel good about things. They loved their jobs and they loved the work they did, but they didn't know if they were recognized or if they were ever kept informed. They never knew what was going on. The place was very top-heavy silo. Is kind of everything was done in secrecy. I was like, guys, full transparency. You are going to know as much as because I need you. This is my first job of being distribution. I know energy, but I've never done distribution. And I need you to correct me. Every time I say megawatt, you have to remind me it's kilowatts, okay? Because I'll be talking to some lady and say, oh my goodness, you have 500 megawatts. And they're watts. And I'm like, oh yeah, kilowatts. So I said, you are a part of this team. We're going to turn this place around together. Okay. And I have to tell you, they're having a watch party right now. And they understand. They say, this is what they said to me. We want what's best for you, Mary, because you brought what's the best for us. You brought this place back. So we're all very proud to work here. And you did that. And I hope you can do that for another ML. Even though we'd love for you to stay. But if you can do that for another MLP, then you know what? Go do it.
Thank you. How do you define success in leadership, and how would you measure it? What metrics would define success?
I think you guys, you're owned by these people, your customers. Okay. That's what it is. It's a customer owned. Those are our stakeholders, shareholders. And when you get, like I did, those kind of results, then you know you're doing a good job because those are your customers. They're your shareholders. I mean, companies go, what do our shareholders think? That's how they measure. These are our shareholders. They think we're doing a great job. So I would say that that's success.
Administrative question before I get to the final one. Are there any constraints that might affect your ability to start in January 2026?
Yes, I think I disclosed that to the headhunter. I have a planned trip that's all been paid for 2 years for my husband and I to go down the Nile. So it's been a present that I put together and it's non-refundable. But I did disclose that to the headhunter at the time. He said, I'm sure we can work on it if you're chosen.
Okay.
So the date, then the availability date would be?
Would be February 15th, unfortunately.
Okay.
Okay. Last and final, why do you want this job? Why do you feel you're the right fit for the GM role at RMLD?
I love a challenge. When I got the job at Merrimack, they went, oh, it's another one, scorecard, number 4 going down. I said, not so fast, guys, because I love a challenge. And that's not going to be the case. I think that there's an opportunity here to verse the course. And I don't even know what it is. I just know that you've had multiple managers. It seems to be a same scenario that I had in Merrimack. I like the challenge. I like to come into places and I like to see and figure out what's gone wrong. How can we correct it? What can we do better? I actually brought some articles that I've actually penned and have put out. One is called Defending Public Power, a lesson for utilities in competition and community. You have competition. I've heard so many GMs tell me, oh, we're a monopoly. We have no competition. Yes, you do. And you got to stop thinking that way. You have competition. Okay. IOUs are losing their gas industry. They have only so much service territory. They're the ones who put the bug in the ear of our board of selectmen. Okay. So there is competition out there. You have to provide the services they provide at a competitive price, which means a lot less than them. So if you're not thinking that way strategically, then you could be finding yourself like Merrimack, where, the board of selectmen and the knights want to get your money and say, as one selectman said to me, the lights are not going out. Somebody else will provide the power. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is all about my lessons I learned from when we were up for the sale. So those are the things I think that I can bring. It's a new way of thinking about the municipal light department. And I think that that's important that we have those in place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything that we didn't ask that you were hoping that we would ask?
No, I mean, you have a lot of information on your website. I understand you're redoing it because it's not as user friendly. The engagement from the customers, you want them to be able to do everything in one transaction. So those are kind of things I was looking at. Did you do ever a cost of service study? I just couldn't find that online. Okay.
That's actually one of the things that's in flight.
Okay. All right. And then, and I had another one and, No, that was my big one because I couldn't find that at all.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Yes,
for the
and
interest
please.
and
So
for
much.
your
You have
experience.
1, 2. I only have one of those, but you can keep that one.
Well, let's get to them.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. And it was a pleasure meeting all of you. I didn't get to personally meet you guys. Charlie.
I'm Charlie also.
Oh, Charlie.
I'm Tim Woods. Nice to meet you.
Nick, I know. I know. Dave, I met. Raymond and Richard. Okay.
Nice meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you all.
Thank
And
you
have
so
a nice evening.
Thank you, Mary.
too.
Thank you.
So we will take a break after this to give people a chance to kind of recapture their notes. But after that, we will move into executive. Before we do the break and then move into executive, anything else we need to do in terms of scheduling? Got tomorrow at noon, we've got our budget meeting on November 12th, and then I can't remember if we said this was tentative or firm.
The
but
E&E on the
November-
6th, November 6th.
November 6th. Yes.
So November 6th, E&E, and then November 19th, we also have our plan meeting,
Board meeting.
regular board. Okay. And is it the 12th that is in North Reading?
So the 12th is in North Reading.
Okay.
And 19th is back here.
Correct, the night.
What time did we say on the sixth?
6 p.m.
That's
PM.
the time that's it.
But it'll be 6.
6 p.m. would be fine.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Can you just send out a
Yeah.
text blast
Yeah,
on the 11th, the 10th, which is the 11th, that it will not be here.
Oh,
It
right.
was a reminder, because I
Yeah.
will muscle memory.
Right. No, right here. Okay.
Last time.
Oh, I did. And it happened in Wilmington. I just muscle memory and I come right here.
Do you want someone to pick you up?
Probably.
All right, perfect. And then it looks like we have an MCLA meeting for those interested in participating December 4th. Be the next one. Okay, so any questions about process from here before we go to executive session?
Are you
and
doing,
adjourn?
are you doing the executive session here?
I think we normally move, so we won't be here.
You will move. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So then we'll just debrief here.
Okay. Do we need? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to do that in open meeting or?
No,
No. Okay, all right. Okay, so then you can adjourn.
Okay. If we're gonna debrief, we don't need to adjourn right now, right?
Well, it should still be an open meeting.
It is a debrief. Here's the adjourn and enter in.
Yeah, so what, I don't.
Okay.
Why don't you,
Okay, we had motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Okay.
Aye.
All right, all in favor?
All
All
in
right,
favor.
fine. All right, fine. Aye.
we want to have somebody move to executive session.
Moved that the RMLD Board of Commissioners adjourn regular session. Roll call, vote required.
Are you good?
I think we're going to
You
executive
have to
session
read,
to
the
read all
13
the.
there.
Oh, I
You
read
gotta
that.
read number
I
13.
read-
Yeah.
I read 16.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners go into an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 164, Section 47D, exempt from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances under purposes number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, return to open session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second.
all those in favor?
Covered.
All right, 5-0. Perfect. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Recording stopped.